Hi everyone, welcome to Share and Review. Today we're actually going to take a look at Bitcoin. Someone has come to me saying that they've been investing in Bitcoin and having a really successful run. That is fantastic. So before I jump across and share my screen, just remember that this is for educational purposes only. No way is it intended to be personalised financial advice. For that, obviously, you do need to go and have a chat to your own financial advisor. However, if you do have any questions on share trading that you'd like me to answer, reach out, happy to help, happy to create a video on it. And also, if there is a share or anything that you'd like me to do a review on, again, happy to do that as well. Right, let's take a look at Bitcoin. I have pulled up Bitcoin here on the screen. Now, the interesting thing with Bitcoin, this is under the ticker code BTC NZ. This is available under Smart Invest, which used to be Smartshares, and it's under the thematic section of their funds that are available. Now, Bitcoin in New Zealand has only just really been launched. And that's why I've got the 1 year screen on. If I just scroll back, it looks like it listed around the 24th of October last year. So there's not a lot of information here on the New Zealand market. The interesting thing that I did note is that it paid a dividend. I certainly wasn't aware that Bitcoin paid dividends, but it has. It's paid one back at the end of May this year, which is the first dividend it's paid since it's been listed on our stock exchange. Right, because I've got this on the 1 year chart, these have pulled up daily candles rather than weekly candles. If I click on the 5 year chart, there you go, the candles are a lot bigger. They do automatically go to weekly. And the reason they're a lot bigger is because there's not a lot of information. Like I said, it only listed last year. So it hasn't been on our stock exchange for even 12 months yet. It's obviously been getting there, but not quite yet. As you can see, with Bitcoin, we had a high around that sort of $14.14, and that was around the sort of 20th of May this year. We've also hit it, this is on a weekly chart, we've also hit it back at the end of January this year as well. Now, is that forming a line of resistance? Who knows? Only time will tell us that one. Right, I'm recording this on Saturday. So this green candle that you can see here is for the week. So it is up for the week, which is great. This little red candle that you can see beside it, that's just the Friday trading, or at least the after hours trading, and that on Friday only. So that's got very little relevance to me on there. Let's pop on our moving averages. I'm going to put on our 30-week exponential moving average. I'm not sure what's going on here, but it won't let me change that to an exponential. So we'll also put on a 15-week moving average as well. We'll just stick with simple for this purpose. Now, if I go back to the 5 year, this is a simple moving average rather than an exponential. So what that means is that it's just averaging out the closing values of the Bitcoin shares over the last 15 and 30 weeks, okay? It hasn't put more emphasis on the last end of the market, which normally what happens with an exponential moving average. Not a lot of difference, but it is one that I certainly prefer to use rather than just a simple moving average, but we'll stick with this at the meantime. As you can see, under the simple moving average, the 15-week here is still trading a little bit below the 30. So for me, that's not something that I would want to do. I want to see this 15-week cross through that 30-week moving average. However, it could be like that on the exponential one. That I don't know, because I'm having a little bit of difficulty. So that's something to just keep an eye on with Bitcoin. In fact, it's something to keep an eye on with any shares. Now, the reason I brought up the Smart Bitcoin ETF under the Smart Invest is because it's listed on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. For those of you that are concerned about having investments held in the US and the foreign investment fund rules and taxations under that, this can be a way to mitigate it. But again, you do need to do your research. I haven't looked up to see what the fees are or anything like that. This is just showing you that it is available on the New Zealand market. I'll just take these moving averages off. Something else I'm going to put on is the ATR, and we'll go trailing stops. So what I'm doing here, I'm doing it over a 21 period. I'm doing the multiplier by 4. So what that's doing is it's taking, you can see in the middle, we've got the ATR. Okay, so that's the average trading range. So over 1 week, Bitcoin on this market is roughly going to move about 28 cents in 1 week. But what I want to do is times that by 4, just to give us a little bit of an idea as to where we should be placing our stops. Now, you can see here by highlighting it, it brings up that bright green color. What happens by using this methodology is, as the shares increase there, my bright green moves up as well. And that is the stop. So for me, if I was investing into Bitcoin, this is where I would be placing my stop. Okay, so it's ridden it up. We've now going through a bit of a flat patch. So even though we've had a couple of weeks selling off around the 26th of May and also the 2nd of June, that trailing stop has stayed in the same place. What that does is as the share moves higher, so does the trailing stop. As a share sells off or even goes through a sideways pattern, which it could be at the moment, that trailing stop is set at that same place. It never moves down. The trailing stop is designed to protect you in any market, and it's something that I use regularly. I will always put on a trailing stop if I'm buying any sort of share or commodity or anything like that, purely because for me, it will get me out of the market. It also means that it takes the emotion out. I've already set that figure before I enter as to where I want my trailing stop to be. And it doesn't matter when you enter. So it just started it back on the 24th of March that week. Hey, if you entered a share back here, which is the 19th of May, then your trailing stop would still be just the same as when you entered it. But it means that if this share, or any share for that matter, even currency, it means if it falls down to where we've got our trailing stop, it means you will automatically be sold out. So like I just said, it takes out all emotion, all second guessing. For me, it's quite arbitrary, and that is exactly what I like when I'm doing share trading, and especially something for Bitcoin, because we've seen a lot of volatility with Bitcoin. Let's take that off, and I'm going to put in the code for Bitcoin on the US market. Right, you can see that I've got the iShares Bitcoin Trust up here on the screen. Well, this is under the US market, just to give you an idea. It's been listed at this iShare back on around the beginning of August last year. So it is a similar time to New Zealand, but it's obviously has a lot more volume going on here. Now let's put our moving averages on and just see what happens with Bitcoin. So we want to go 30, and I will also put on the 15. So for the Bitcoin iShares on the US market, you can see here that the 15-week moving average has crossed up through the 30, which is a great sign. It's closed this week at $60.72, and again, it's trading similar to New Zealand, because the New Zealand one will probably have exposure into this particular investment. But you can see here that it looks like it is sort of going through potentially a little bit of a flat patch. You can see here as well, there's been no dividend paid for the iShare in the US. Who knows? I don't invest into shares purely for their dividends, but I was surprised to see that it had paid one on the New Zealand market, because I wasn't aware that they did, unlike some other companies that obviously pay out a percentage of their profits as dividends to shareholders. So Bitcoin here is looking a little bit more positive for the NASDAQ. That's where it's listed. We'll take those moving averages off, and I will go back and show you the average true range for the trailing stops as well. So again, it's done 21 points, which is great. Let's use a 4. I'll just change that color actually. It might make it a little bit better to see. So these blue dots are again where the trailing stops are. So because it hasn't been going that long, you can see here that the trailing stops sort of started around the beginning of October. So it depends where you buy your share. If you've only bought it fairly recently, you can see we've had, obviously it's gone flatlined from the trending or the time pattern for this. We've had a couple of weeks where we would have, or 3 weeks where we would have moved our trailing stop up, and then it's just flatlined again. It's got really close to hitting this round the beginning of April this year. Now, if it had gone through that, that would mean that you were automatically sold. Okay, so again, like I just said in the previous example, it will take that emotion out for you. And then since then, we had Bitcoin hitting a close of $61.83. And so because that was a high at that time, it's then moved that trailing stop up. And you can see here that the trailing stop is now flatlined again. I like to use them, like I keep saying, it protects me. It takes me out of the market in case we have a period of volatility happening, and if Bitcoin's price of it fell for whatever reason. I don't personally invest into Bitcoin, but I had someone ask me about it, so hence why I thought I would show you. I've pulled up ticker code BTC, and it's on the US market. So interestingly enough, the Smart Invest or Smartshares option for the New Zealand market has the same ticker code. Instead of it being BTC.NZ, it's BTC USD. So you can see it's been listed in August 2014. There wasn't a lot of movement in Bitcoin then, but obviously we started seeing a huge run, and this is on a monthly chart, through this period here, which was September 2020 through to February 2021. Bit of a sideways movement, then we sold off, and now we've had this rally as to where we are at the moment. I'll pop that onto the 5-year chart. Again, I've left these blue dots on underneath. So they are to signal, depending on where you get into the share, again, it's signaling where you would place these stop losses. Where my cursor is at the moment, that is around the beginning of October 2024. If you had entered in that period, you would have your stop loss, and it would not have moved again. It would have stayed the same until around October 2024. That's about 7 months that Bitcoin went sideways. Then we obviously had a very strong rally, and no surprises, like I showed with the US market, Bitcoin, the iShare, and also the New Zealand one, we're going through a bit of a sideways pattern at the moment. You can see where the dashed line is at the top. That is where the share is currently. So it's basically just sitting at over $107,000 per share. And that's why they've introduced the iShares, so that you can obviously get into them a little bit with ease. But you can see where it is at the moment. It's not at a new all-time high, and that's why that trailing stop is flatlined. It will only increase as the share makes a new all-time high. But you can see through this period, which is sort of March this year through to June even this year, it fell, and then it went through a little bit of a sideways movement before it's rallied again, but it hasn't gone through to make all new time highs. So this is why this trailing stop stays where it is. It doesn't move. It's to protect you if you use them to get out of the shares. So I really hope that's helped. It was quite interesting just taking a look at Bitcoin. It has been very popular with a lot of investors, and a lot of people have done very, very well out of Bitcoin. But for me, it was really about emphasizing and showing you those trailing stops and the importance of using them, because that is what protects you in a downward market, because we don't know where they're going to happen. Obviously, shares do favor the trend, and if we are in an upward cycle, well, then highly likely the share will keep going, but at some point it's going to reach a top, and that's why it's really important to make sure that, and especially in the example of Bitcoin, you've seen it increasing in value, then it flat lines, and then if it falls and hits that trailing stop, it will take you out of the market, and hopefully it will take you out in good profit as well. The idea with a trailing stop is to never get you out at the top of the market, because if you did that, then you could be getting whipsawed all the time. If you had your trailing stops too tight, you could find that the share would hit it, and then you would be sold out, and it could potentially run again. So it's about setting your trailing stop when you enter the market as to what sort of loss level that you are comfortable with. There's different methodologies you can use. I certainly use the algorithmic one of the average true range over a 21 week period, and I times that by 4. So it gives my share plenty of room to move. I really hope that's helped. I hope it hasn't been too high level and too confusing for you. But by all means, if you've got any questions, please let me know, and we'll address them on here. So until next week, take care.